Okay, Monday, April 1st, 2024. Yeah, April Fool's Day. Yeah, we had a pretty quiet Easter here. You know, I think people here in Ukraine, I don't know, like half of them celebrate European Easter, and then there's an Orthodox Church Easter, which I'm not sure when that is, but it still hasn't totally switched over. They're trying to switch over to the European calendar, but it's not so visible here. Like, everything was open yesterday. It was pretty much outside the air alarms we had on, I think it's Saturday. Saturday we had an air raid here in Lviv. Again, it's like, I don't hear about it unless it's like from friends or something who live abroad. They get better news than we do. You know, then I think on the Lviv mayor's website, they posted something. But Lviv was attacked, but like from our perspective, we still had electricity, water. So I don't know if it reached this side or not. Apparently they were attacking a utility station. Utilities, one person died, one person injured. I think Lviv proper itself, I think we were okay. It's hard to tell, you know, we're so busy with our lives with the baby and just trying to keep ourselves going. You know, it's, you know, we got work and all this stuff going on, and it's just hard to keep track of it. But we are thinking about, you know, leaving for a while in the summer, you know, once the baby's vaccinations are done and, you know, the baby is switching over to regular food, you know, and we can manage the schedule a little bit better in a travel situation. Because, you know, the travel, it's still, the border is, from what I understand, still a mess, you know, and even on the good days, it takes a long time to get across. So, yeah, we have to figure that one out. You know, whether to go in the fall, I think, when the weather cools back down a little bit. You know, June, July, it's pretty hot. You don't want to be stuck in a car with a baby. And then, you know, so, yeah, and there's, I think, a walking crossing at Przemyśl or someplace like this. I've heard about it, where you take a bus there, you walk across, and there's a bus on the other side. That might be an option. It just depends how long the queues are, you know, to get across. So we have to do some research. Maybe I'll have to dry run it and test it out, see how it is before taking everyone. So, yeah. And then, I guess in the U.S. there was a lot of drama this weekend. So, you know, Trump is selling his Bibles, right? And that's got some Christians upset. And there was a chance, there was an opening for Biden to win over some people from the other side, but I don't know, instead, and this was not any planning, it was just a coincidence. It was like a Transgender Remembrance Day, or, you know, Appreciation Day or something, and Biden chose to go down that route, and it basically just negated all of this negative press that Trump was getting from hawking Bibles. You know, and when Biden did that, it just shot himself in the foot, and now it's all canceled out. And everything is back where it is. And if you look at the latest betting odds, Empire Stakes betting odds, Trump is pulling away. All these people are arguing that, you know, the polls and this and the polls and that. The casinos know best. I can tell you, betting parlors and casinos, because they will lose a lot of money if they're wrong. So they're the ones who, you know, when they're creating betting odds on the U.S. presidential election, they've done their homework. You know, they don't want to screw it up. You know, so yeah, they're not always right, but I would say they're usually, I think, more right. They get it right more often than standard polling outlets, you know, who use robocalls and what have you. Let me just check. Yeah, I still have the blue light. I hadn't charged up this microphone in a while. You know, I got to keep these things charged. But yeah, hang on. So Yeah, I don't know. Biden had this real opportunity to win over some of the Christian right, and instead he, I don't know what he's thinking. I mean, the transgender people are only like 0.5% of the population. They're fine. You know, I think there's a, you know, you've got people in government and military. It's, I don't think it was needed. I don't think he needed this for his campaign. I mean, I think he just shot himself, like I said. It's just like, it's like when Ukraine hired that American as a spokesperson. Yes, he or she did a lot of great things on the front line and everything, but when you're playing politics, it's you got to use your head a little bit. You got to be a little smart. You know, you're trying to win, you know, and there's a difference between winning and making a statement sometimes. And you got to make that decision, because when you win, then you can change things. But if you don't win, then there's even a backlash that you could face. You know, so you have to be a little bit more deliberate. I don't know. I mean, none of the politicians are calling me and asking me for advice. I mean, I would have, you know, so we'll see. And then what else? I was reading some news this morning that, you know, Marjorie Taylor Greene now is going after Speaker Johnson because he might bring Ukraine to the vote, or Ukraine's funding to the floor for voting. You know, and it's going to bypass again the border thing. It was all supposed to be tied together. So I don't know if they don't do something with this border. That's why the sports betting has Trump at, I think, 53% odds of winning. He's a minus 120. Joe Biden's a plus 183. So Biden's odds are 37%. You know, so he's been, you know, Trump has been pulling away. It was like 37-46, and now it's pulling away a little bit. And so, yeah, we have to plan. We have to hope for the best, plan for the worst here, because, like I said, Trump hasn't been clear exactly on what his plan, how he would end the Ukrainian war. Would he just hand over all of Ukraine or part of Ukraine? You know, how would we do it? And I mean, the Russians are saying that Ukraine shouldn't exist, and what is the biggest symbol of Ukraine is Lviv, as far as culture goes. You know, I mean, there's a lot of symbols of Ukraine, but as far as like what would be a real stab would be, you know, taking Lviv. So it's yeah, some lingering anxiety and everything, and you know, you get your life settled here, you get a nice routine here, and then you got to go change everything. So, you know, we're also got Norway. You know, I actually applied for a few jobs over there. You know, it'd be better to go to Norway already working and in a Norwegian company, you know, paying into the Norwegian pension system, getting Norwegian benefits, obviously the Norwegian salary, you know, so yeah, that's on the radar too. Like I said, then where else are we looking? Des Moines, Iowa. Someone in Reddit, you know, I was on Reddit and I asked a question, and farmers stealing tanks subreddit, and that just blew up. I got a lot of answers. People were suggesting Minnesota, where I was born, but I'm not into freezing 9 months a year. You know, it's really cold there. It's a nice state, but it makes Norway look like Hawaii, you know? I mean, it's really cold, much colder than any place I've ever been in Europe. I mean, heck, even Chicago, where I grew up, is really cold. That's even much more colder and tough than when I was living in Norway. You know, so yeah, you know, where else? Yeah, so that someone suggested Rochester, New York. That could be, that's a classic American town. I mean, Xerox, Bell Labs. It used to be like a Silicon Valley. That used to be like the tech hub of America, actually. AT&T, yeah, Bell Labs, Xerox. Who else was there? I think Burroughs, Unisys company. I mean, it used to be the data processing capital of America. I think in that area too was like some of the training reactors for the U.S. Navy, the prototype somewhere in that area as well. So I think they moved all that down to Charleston, New York, though. But there used to be like a GE facility up there. And I mean, even General Electric has, I think, got prominence in that area. So that was the pre-Silicon Valley, before California. I mean, that could be interesting, you know. And then I came across, you know, watching these Nick Johnson videos, you know, where he's a blogger who's drove all around America, you know, and he talks about all the different towns, the pros and cons. It's geared towards real estate, which is interesting, you know. So he's always talking about home prices, how much you get, you know, what the job market is like, and what the growth. So what keeps coming up is Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina, you know, this research triangle part of the North Carolina. I mean, North Carolina is actually very diverse. It's like a country. They got skiing there. They got beaches and surfing. I mean, it's a bit like California. You can do it all in one day, one ambitious day probably. I mean, far west North Carolina is like the skiing, and then obviously you have the Outer Banks. You know, where I've been to, I've been surfing up there in Cape Hatteras before, you know. But then they have like a good finance sector, banking jobs, you know, so, and then it's growing, so you can make money off the house too. So you buy a house and you wait a couple of years, the area around it grows up, you know, build up infrastructure. And then, yeah, so that could be a play as well. And I looked at Jacksonville, Florida, but, you know, Florida is like, I don't know, you know, raising a kid, you know, there's a lot of risks. I mean, a lot of good kids come out of Florida. I mean, you have, I guess it really depends. It's up to the kid, up to the family, but it's a lot of distraction. You know, it's, I think there's got to be something said for living in a place with seasons, you know, a place like, you know, Midwest, or like living in Scandinavia or someplace like that. You know, I mean, it's good. Florida's a good place. I lived there when I was in the Navy. It's a good place to go after you've been in the Midwest. You appreciate it more after you've grown up a bit and you've gotten your compass set. But I don't know how it would have been for me growing up there as a kid. I probably would have just partied all the time, you know. You know, who knows? Yeah, a lot going on these days. You know, what to do here. You know, having a kid, it changes everything. You know, that's for sure. You know, I'm finally getting myself up early in the morning. You know, and getting back on this discipline of being at the gym by 7. You know, so yeah, 7-ish, I should say. And you know, that way I get a nice head start to the day. You know, I always like sleeping in, you know, because we're all getting up all night, you know, with the baby. But now the baby's approaching 3 months. She's actually 12 weeks and 1 day, but 3 months is 90 days. So she's 85 days old today. So now they start sleeping mostly through the night. You just have to get up like one time in the middle of the night to feed them and do a diaper change. And they're like all in this half asleep, so it's not so bad where you're having to negotiate to get them back to sleeping again. So it's getting a little bit better, and you know, they're becoming more social. So it goes just from more, you know, diaper changes and feeding to, you know, I mean, we were doing all the playtime stuff to develop the senses and, you know, the social and all these things we were doing, but it's becoming now more and more important and part of the routine. You know, you have to have them on their stomach, you know, now I think 30 minutes a day in total. So you do like 5 or 6 blocks of 5 or 6 minutes. Sometimes she goes up to 10 minutes, which is good. Then we knock out 2 blocks at one time, you know, and that gets them ready for walking. You know, it prepares all their back muscles, neck muscles, and everything, arms, you know, they push off their arms. So it's like I mean, there's a couple steps you have to go through. So they do this, then they start rolling, and then they start sitting up, and then they start crawling. It's something like that. And then they start standing, and then they start walking. They start trying to climb on stuff. So, you have to prepare all this now with this time on the stomach, and just got to play with them. You touch their feet together, you touch one foot, one hand, opposite cross, to build the coordination. So there's all these like exercises you have to do as well, and yeah, set them up for success in life. This is but you have to, like I said, you got to force time in for yourself, for your fitness, for your nutrition. So a lot of people say, oh yeah, you can't do it all. You can't have a kid and still stay in shape. I argue it's just a matter of priority. I mean, a lot of people, they go on Netflix or something on their downtime. So I'm using my downtime to stay fit and study stocks, and things like this. And I tell you, the stock market is getting a bit scary. Valuations are quite high, but where else can the money go, right? They're printing money like crazy, and where else can it go? I mean, gold has even gone up to like a record high, even though it's, if you put it in like 1979 inflationary terms, it's still way off, but I think stocks will catch the hyperinflation quicker than gold would. It's just easier for people to access, and easier for people to deal with. It's just the modern reality of online banking and, convenience. People aren't in the habit of keeping coins and cash and all this. It's just easier to buy an ETF or, buy an innovation company. I mean, how do you stop inflation? Like, besides price controls, it's usually something is invented to mitigate the bottleneck. So if there's like a shortage of bread, then people start, substituting with corn, or they invent some kind of way to get more out of the grain so that there's less waste. So this innovation is where a lot of times the money goes, when there's an inflationary cycle. So you have all of Silicon Valley always trying to find ways to make things more productive. So yeah. But anyway, that's all I got. I'm at the gym already, so this is the playground, behind the gym. It's Ukraine. Yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, okay, we'll see you next time.